Today we're going to take a look at a sinus bradycardia. That's right, so if you have looked at the normal sinus rhythm, my chances or my guess here is that you probably will do well with a sinus bradycardia. So let's dive right in. So our first thing here is, again, start off with our rules to identify whether or not this is a readable strip. And I can identify my waves. I can identify that there is a fantastic baseline here. And this is now going to tell me that, yes, I have a readable strip. Now, P waves, present or absent. So let's just go back here and make sure that we can circle our P waves. And I do see that there are definitely P waves. Now, this one here, I'm not quite sure whether or not I should really circle that because I don't see a QRS complex that's following it. So I am therefore just going to break that part off. Same thing is going to apply right over here. I'm not really sure that I can identify whether or not that would be a QRS a little bit later on. So I'm going to deal with this portion of the QRS complex, or I'm sorry, of the EKG strip. Now, this comes to play into a role because if you were doing this as a way to calculate out 6-second strips, you may get an inaccurate reading if you don't follow the rules appropriately, right? So usually a shortcut that I hear a lot of people doing is counting the 6 seconds or counting the QRS complexes or P waves that are in a 6-second strip, multiplying it by 10, and that's the rate that you get. In this case, if you were to do that, you're probably going to get an inaccurate reading. So let's take a look at why that may be. So if we're going to take from this area, right? So from this area to this area, okay, there would need to be 30 blocks. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So right to here, between these two lines, is 26 blocks. Okay, so as a result of that, this is not going to count for a 6-second strip, right? So we're eliminating these things. And we'll come back here to see whether or not that's going to haunt us in a little bit, right? So this is not 6 seconds. Okay, so this is not 6 seconds. All right, so we have P waves. They are present. And then we come in here, are there P waves for every QRS? So let's just go ahead in here and change our colors. So we have P wave QRS, P wave QRS, P wave QRS, and that continues. Then we can come back here and we're going to say QRS for every P. And our answers here you can see is absolutely, we have a P wave for every QRS. So this is yes. We have a QRS for every P wave, and that also is a yes. So let's clear some of these things out. Now I want to know about my PR interval. So with that, or for that, I need to move into my calipers. So we'll bring our calipers in. And we'll start measuring here our PR interval. So I have a PR interval. I know right off the bat right now, it looks like it falls within normal limits. As soon as I can get this situated here. There we go. Okay. So I now have this moved. And I got to check some things out. And it looks like it's consistent. So I have a consistent PR interval. And because I have a consistent PR interval, that's good here. I'm also going to find out that it is regular here, but let me check something out here. I need to find out what my PR interval is. And it looks like it's 4 blocks, right? So it's 4 blocks. So 4 times 4 is 0.16. Okay. So if it's 0.16, this tells me that this is following normal pathways. Okay. So that's normal. We did find out that it is consistent because we checked that out. And so we're going to say yes to that. And is it regular? Well, let's just double check. It looks like it is, but we're going to come right here. We're going to go, again, doesn't really matter where it's at. It just has to be at the same spot for each EKG, or I'm sorry, for each wave. So as I bring this down, it is regular. So it is regular, and I'm going to move this up here because I'm going to check a rate here in a minute. So it is regular, and that would be a yes. And now I'm going to look at my atrial rate. So I have a QRS complex that is right here, and my next QRS complex is sitting all the way over here. So this here is 300, then we have 150, 100, 75, this is 60, 50, and everything after that really becomes inaccurate. So I'm going to count. I have 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35 blocks. So I'm going to put this here. Again, 1500 is going to go inside the box. So if I put that inside the box, and now I want to look at, I said I had 35 blocks, so 35. So if I divide 35 into 1500, so I get a heart rate of 42. Now, we're going to move this out of the way for a brief. We'll move this out of the way. And we're going to move this here. And I said that my atrial rate was at 42. Okay? So, right off the bat, if I take a look at this, if I were to count this, if I were to shortcut it, it would give me 4. So, not too bad, but again, if this were something that we're pretty out, we missed 2 beats in here. 6-second strips are there for a reason, and irregularities are the reasons why we want to count those things. But in this case, this is why if you follow the rules, you do the 300, 150, 175, and then you see that after we get to a point, I want to get that exact number. It's going to be over here at 42. So now I want to take a look at my QRS, and I need my calipers again, and I didn't change anything here. So I should be able to identify whether or not these things are consistent, and they're regular or irregular. And they are regular, and I know then that I have an answer to 2 questions right off the bat, and that is that this is regular, and I know that my ventricular rate in this case is also going to end up being 42. Now my QRS duration is the last part that I have to take a look at, and I'm going to measure this. We'll move this into a different area, and it looks like it's 2, so it's 0.08. And this is also normal. So if you can tell, or you should be able to tell at this point, that our biggest issue as we go through this, and we've answered all of our questions, is that everything is normal. So all is good or normal except one thing. Except the rate. So that's why we cannot call it normal, okay? All is good or normal except the rate. So therefore, normal has to go out the door, and now we have to call it sinus, and we call it sinus because it does have a P wave, and because it is less than 60, by definition, if it's less than 60, it becomes bradycardia. So therefore, this is a sinus bradycardia. So this is a sinus bradycardia. Again, everything is normal with your measurements with the exception of the rate, which is less than 60. So we have to call it sinus because there's a P wave. And because it is a rate of less than 60, it becomes a sinus bradycardia. Hope this was helpful.